Have you ever noticed how some people command a room without raising their voice, without even speaking? They don't chase, they don't explain, they simply withdraw, and everything changes. The energy shifts. People start to wonder, to reach out, to feel the absence. That quiet withdrawal shakes the ground more than any loud confrontation ever could. Now, imagine if you embraced that same power. Imagine no longer reacting to everything immediately, no longer explaining every decision, no longer feeling guilty for saying no. Imagine choosing silence over explanation, distance over performance, clarity over chaos. What do you think would happen? Here's the truth. When you stop being emotionally, mentally, and physically available all the time, the world around you enters a kind of crisis. Not because you did anything wrong, but because people are used to controlling you through your predictability, through your constant yes, your endless giving, your fear of being misunderstood. But the moment you become inaccessible, the dynamics shift. Those who thought they knew you begin to realize they knew only the role you played, not the person you are. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." When someone becomes agitated by your silence or absence, they reveal more about their dependence on you than about your character. Their frustration exposes their own lack of emotional control, the way they relied on your reactions to regulate themselves. The sad truth is, many of us give away pieces of ourselves just to keep the peace. We say yes when we want to say no. We offer comfort when we ourselves are breaking. We explain ourselves to those who aren't even listening. And at the end of it all, what remains? Exhaustion, frustration, a quiet, gnawing emptiness. And why? Because we were too available to people who didn't even deserve a minute of our presence, let alone our energy. This isn't about turning your back on the world. It's about finally turning toward yourself. It's about realizing, as Jung described, that individuation, the process of becoming whole, is born through silence, through boundaries, through the decision to stop living in reaction to others. So let me ask you, how long will you let yourself be emotionally hijacked by other people's expectations? How long will you allow yourself to dance like a puppet every time someone tugs at your unresolved wounds? You were taught to be responsive, to be agreeable, to be liked, but no one told you that excessive availability isn't a virtue, it's a trap. And the more you give yourself away without discernment, the more you become invisible, predictable, replaceable, depleted. What people truly want from you isn't always your presence. Often they just want the relief, validation, or comfort that your presence provides. And the second you no longer serve that role, they retreat. That's not connection, that's transaction. The most painful realization is this: the more accessible you are, the less you are valued. What's always available becomes background noise. What's earned is respected. So stop and ask yourself, who truly deserves your attention, your presence, your silence? But before you answer, you have to understand why you give so much in the first place. What is it that drives your need to explain, to respond, to prove? Carl Jung would call this psychic energy, the fuel of the psyche. Every reaction, every explanation, every emotional investment is a withdrawal from this inner reservoir. And unless you learn to manage it, someone else will spend it for you. Think about all the times you defended yourself to someone who had already made up their mind, all the arguments you entered just to be right, all the emotional energy spent on people who never intended to meet you halfway. That energy is gone, wasted. Jung warned that what we resist persists. The more we react, the more we bind ourselves to situations we should have walked away from long ago. Emotional fatigue isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of misdirected energy. And when you're drained, you become vulnerable. And when you're vulnerable, you're easy to manipulate. People who thrive on control can sense when you're tired. They know when you're likely to say yes just to avoid conflict. They know when you're operating from guilt instead of power, and they use it. That's why reclaiming your energy begins with one radical act. Stop reacting, observe, withdraw, become a mystery. Let others sit with the silence you leave behind. Let them confront their own chaos without making you responsible for calming it. This is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming conscious. It's not about indifference. It's about self-sovereignty. When you stop feeding the projection others place on you, their illusions begin to collapse, and that terrifies them. Your silence becomes a mirror to their own noise. Your boundary exposes their dependency, and that's when the attacks begin, not because you did anything wrong, but because you stopped being easy to manipulate. Jung taught us that we do not become enlightened by imagining light, but by becoming conscious of our own darkness. And that means withdrawing. That means sitting in silence long enough to see your own truth, to observe your own wounds, to reclaim your power without needing permission. But here's the cost of that power. You will be misunderstood. You will be called distant, arrogant, unkind. And that's okay, because they are not reacting to the real you. They are reacting to the version of you that stopped playing the role they assigned you. Real transformation requires silence. Unapologetic, strategic, sacred silence. The kind that isn't absence, but amplified presence. The kind that reveals patterns, exposes cycles, and shatters illusions. Silence is not passivity, it is preparation, it is power. When you withhold your reactions, you reclaim your narrative. You stop participating in games you never signed up for. You stop explaining yourself to those who never cared to understand you, and you start building something new, a self that is whole, guarded, and deeply unapologetically at peace. At first, the silence will feel heavy. You'll feel guilty. You'll question if you're doing the right thing. But over time, that silence becomes your sanctuary. It cleanses you. It strengthens you. It heals you. And then comes the solitude. Not loneliness, but sacred solitude. The kind that reconnects you with yourself. The kind that replaces confusion with clarity, anxiety with presence, neediness with sovereignty. You will lose people, but you will find yourself. You will be misunderstood, but you will become undeniable. You will walk alone, but you will walk in truth. Because when you are no longer available for emotional crumbs, you begin to attract the feast of your own self-worth. You begin to live, not as a reactor, but as a creator, not as someone shaped by others, but as someone shaping the world from within. This is the power of becoming unavailable. And if you've made it this far, it means a part of you is ready to stop explaining, ready to stop chasing, ready to reclaim every piece of energy you once gave away, ready to choose yourself, even if it means standing alone for a while. So ask yourself, quietly and honestly, Are you ready to become unavailable? Are you ready to protect your peace at all costs? Are you ready to be free